All right, everybody. Well, welcome back. I know it's been a while since we've had a video up, but this one is a special one. So I'm talking to two students who were recently accepted, but they were actually both accepted into the same program. And then there's a special surprise about it we'll save for the end of the interview, but I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves. So if you'll tell us who you are and which school you guys are attending.
I'm Kristen Gunnison, and we are both attending Chapman University.
I'm Cassie Bronstein, and yes, also Chapman.
Okay. So did you guys know each other before?
No.
Wow. But you guys are friends now, huh?
Best friends.
Okay. Well, it was an interesting time. I mean, I met you both of you maybe about a year ago or right about a year now, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And well, so let's just go ahead and go through it. So Cassie, why don't you just go ahead and tell me why did you decide to become a PA?
Well, so my dad was a doctor. So growing up, I liked the idea of going into the medical field, but I did not like the medical field at all. And then when I got to high school, I took an honors anatomy course just for fun, and it was my favorite class. And so from then on, I just kept job shadowing and kept falling more in love with it.
Kristen, what about you? Why did you decide to become a PA?
Actually, very similar story. My honors anatomy class in high school was definitely a turning point for me, but I actually didn't really even know what a PA was. So through like further discussions with my mom, she actually introduced me to that, and then I shadowed to see really what it was all about, and then I fell in love with it.
Nice. Okay. So as I said, you guys both contacted me. Obviously, didn't know each other back then, but wanted some help with your application process. So Cass, why don't you go ahead and walk me through like how did you feel about the whole application process? What was the hardest part of it for you?
I think the personal statement was the hardest part for me. I think it's hard to know where to start because obviously the last 7 years of my life have been to get here, but you don't know how to put that into words. So that was the hardest, and meeting with you helped with the structure. I feel like when you sit down, you have no idea where to start or end. It's really scary. So it's nice to have structure.
Hey, Kristen, when you were applying, or I should say, when you were in your undergraduate, where did you do that at?
Oh, I went to Washington State University, in Pullman,
But where are you originally from?
California,
You
Orange
are.
County, just a couple miles away from Chapman University.
Okay. Were you able to get all of your undergraduate work or like all the prereqs? Were you able to get that done during your undergraduate years?
Yes, except I didn't take developmental psychology. So after I met with you, that was one course I ended up taking through a community college online.
Great. What about you, Cassie? Where did you do your undergraduate?
Chapman again.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're
Um,
from Southern California, right?
yeah, I'm close to Chapman too, about
Okay.
45 minutes south. But yeah, I got most of my prereqs in, but same, I took the child developmental at a community college after.
Okay. So you remember, okay, interview's over. You guys have already been accepted, so you can tell me the real truth here. So what was the hardest class that you guys took?
Ooh.
And I'm not sure if it was just the structure of the class or the way the professor taught, but it was definitely the hardest class for me.
Which was what? Sorry.
Cell biology.
What about you, Cassie?
There's this class at Chapman called Bio 208, and it's the second of the bio series, but it's specifically for medical students, and they have acknowledged to wean people out. And it was
Mm.
brutal, absolutely horrible. I think it was worse than microphysics. I would not take that class again.
Okay. Now you both had to take the GRE for Chapman, right?
Mhm.
Cassie, how did you end up studying for the GRE?
I used Magoosh because it was the cheapest one online. And I studied for technically a year, but I would say it was like an hour a week for a year. So
Mhm.
not really. I actually studied for like 2 months before.
Okay.
Um, but that was all I used.
What about you, Kristen? How did you study for it?
I used GregMat on YouTube,
Mhm.
and then I used the I don't know, it was like specific books. I just did a bunch of practice tests, and I studied for about 3 months straight.
Okay. Did you
Is
feel
Greg Matt, is that the one that's $5 on YouTube?
it is now? Well, he has his own website and it's $5 a month.
Okay, I used him too. I remember
Oh,
that.
yeah.
He's great. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
out of all though, I mean, would you say they were all equally helpful or was one resource more helpful than the other?
I thought Greg Matt was like really helpful, especially for math. And actually, no, comprehension, he was really good. Like, he had amazing strategies for that.
Okay. All right. So what about Kristen, what about your patient care experience? What did you do to get your patient care hours?
I started out as an EMT when I was in college. I did that for about 6 months while actually in school. That was just super overwhelming. So then I did it every break that I came home, which then went into the pandemic. So then I did that for about a year and a half, gained about 2,000 hours doing that. Then I moved into the ER for about 6 months as an ER tech.
Okay. What about you, Cassie? What were you doing for your patient care experience?
Yeah, similar. I was an EMT first during school, but then pandemic happened, so that was rough. And then I was a medical assistant for a cardiologist full time after I graduated for about a year and a half.
Okay. So tell me about what did you feel like was your most competitiveness, or what do you feel about your application made you most competitive?
Mm, I would say first off would be like my GPA. I think I came in um really academically strong, but I also think I had a big variety of volunteer experience, and I think overall I just had like a lot of different aspects that kind of made me stand out a little bit.
What about you, Cassie?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I felt strong about my GPA, but I think because I focused so much on my GPA, I was a little bit worried about my experience. But I think I had enough variety of job shadowing different specialties. So it showed hopefully that I was sure that I wanted to be a PA. But I'd say my GPA I was most confident in.
Well, Cassie, tell me, what did you do for your volunteering?
Volunteer, I did a lot of different things. It's kind of all over the place, but my main ones, I volunteered for a hospice place that's locally, and they assign you to a hospice patient and you go visit them every week. So that was my favorite, obviously hard, but and I went on a lot of trips. I went to Thailand, spent at an orphanage, and then a lot of volunteer with homeless around here. And then I was a volunteer medical assistant for an OB/GYN for a year and a half. So I guess that's the majority of my hours, but that was super fun to see too.
What about you, Kristen? How did you get your volunteer hours?
I spent a lot of summers going down to Mexico to build houses, spending time at the orphanage and at the medical clinics down there. I also volunteered locally at the Harvest Food Bank. And then in college, I was a part of a bunch of different community service teams.
Nice. How about shadowing? How are you guys going about getting your shadowing hours?
I had a two of my sister's best friends both happened to become PAs, which was very convenient for me. But I shadowed her the most, and then through her, I met a lot of previous Chapman alumni. So I started shadowing them. And then doctors, it was honestly mainly my dad's friends. So I know it could be hard to find people to say yes.
What about you, Kristen?
This was kind of difficult because of the pandemic, but I did a bunch of virtual shadowing, and then I ended up shadowing an orthopedic PA that I actually worked alongside, as well as an urgent care PA.
Okay. So what do you think, Kristen, what was the hardest part, do you think, in the application process?
I would say probably the personal statement because it's definitely the most important. So you definitely want to like really focus on that. You definitely helped like reviewing that was extremely helpful. Could be a little frustrating at times because we thought that we knew what we were doing, but then we would just get slammed with, nope, that's wrong. Um, I would also say the like mini essays are kind of difficult as well,
Mhm.
kind of just keeping track of everything because you are applying to multiple schools.
Okay, so be honest. I mean, it sounds like you kind of already have been, but go ahead and tell me, what did you, the personal statement writing? I mean, it's probably the least favorite thing anybody has to do, but how bad was doing the personal statement?
Well, I think it was honestly, I think it was tough because you go in thinking that you need to like write a story and you need to really, I don't know, make yourself look like this person that you're probably not. And so I think everyone's first attempt is to write something that's completely what you wouldn't have us write. And so then I think it was just tough having it be like, okay, you have to rewrite this. And you're like, oh, I just spent so long doing this already. But I think once you get the structure, it was pretty easy to know exactly like what you wanted us to write.
What about you, Cassie? I know we had some difficult times writing or reviewing, I should say.
Yeah, I think honestly, once we had the structure, I don't know if this is bad, but I think it took me like 30 minutes to do the personal statement. But I agree. I had this whole idea of like, I had to like break my arm when I was 7 and see like 7 doctors that changed my life or something. But I think once we put the structure out, I was like, oh, this is easy. Like, obviously, I know why I want to be a PA. That's why, we're doing all of this, but it is hard to express that to someone else because they don't know anything about you. But
Mhm.
I do think once you have the structure, it's smooth sailing from there.
Okay. So we were able to get your applications together quite early, right? You guys submitted in May, right?
Hmm.
Okay. How long did you wait for the interview?
I think it was like 2 weeks. I think I waited 2 weeks after I submitted.
Okay. So
Really?
let's talk about the interview. Like you both, yeah, June 7th is when you guys interviewed.
Oh yeah, so
Yeah.
it was about 2 weeks. Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Hmm.
So
It's
let's
not.
talk about the mock interview prep. How did you feel? Was that helpful?
Mm,
Hmm.
definitely. I think also for interviews, um, just like talking to other people and stuff, the idea that you kind of want to also like put out this story and make yourself look, I guess, not who you really are was something that I think a lot of people thought we should be doing. And I think when you kind of dumbed it down and realized it was actually really simple, it was just basically telling your story and telling your personal statement, it became a lot easier. But I definitely think it was a little bit intimidating at first going through the mock interview, but it definitely helped me feel confident.
Hmm.
How did you feel about it, Cassie?
I think it was more intimidating doing it with you than the actual interview, but I think that's a good thing. Because I think when I went into the interview, I was like, oh, this is nothing. I was like, this
Yeah,
is fine.
yeah, I've heard
But
that
yeah,
before.
yeah.
I have heard that before. So I'm not trying to do that, but
No, I think it's a positive thing because
Hmm.
a lot of students, I mean, especially for people who don't prepare, I can only imagine how intimidating it would be when you just like are with the committee right there and they're just asking you questions. So to have someone that was already kind of intimidating, it kind of made the actual day less like, I don't know, I wasn't as nervous.
okay.
I think so too.
Now I know you guys both found out on the same day. I don't remember which one found out first
I think Cassie found out first.
because I do remember one of you finding out, and I really didn't know how I was going to talk to the other one. And I was waiting, and then because I think one of you, whoever found out first, knew the other had gotten in, but you hadn't heard yet.
Yeah.
So
Cassie, I think you found out first because I found out on my lunch. And I think you found out around like 11.
I was on lunch, but I had just sat down. I think it was like exactly 12 or something. Because I
Uh,
know I just walked outside.
yeah, I just know that I like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to face the other one of you. You both get in. But you both got in the same day. So well, where did Chapman sit in terms of your choice?
Number one, easily. I love Chapman. Obviously, I mean, I'm biased. I went there for undergrad, but
Yeah.
it's close to my family. I like how it's 2 years. I know a lot of people that went there and they all love it. So,
I think Chapman was definitely like my number one specifically because it started the earliest.
Mhm.
Um, I would rather just go through this and then find a job. So I think that was really my focus, as well as the 24-month program. Like I said, I'd rather just get through it as quick as possible.
So there's something else unique about the two of you, other than getting into the same program, same day, didn't even know each other. But the two of you decided to apply for scholarships.
Mhm.
And which one of you got the scholarship?
We both did.
Yes. And these are full scholarships, correct?
Yes.
Mhm.
So just tell me about that process real quick.
So you fill out an application online. It's actually pretty in-depth. That has like financial information. You have to write a small little personal statement, get a couple recommendations from people, and then have someone write a personal letter about you. Once you did submit that, I actually didn't hear for about, I think it was like 3 months. So it was a pretty long process. The interview was super simple. You really just shared your story with them. They asked you like simple interview questions. It was kind of similar to the actual interview, but they were a lot more personable. You were already in PA school, so it wasn't really that stressful. Um, but it was actually a really easy process, and it actually benefited us very well. So
How did you feel about Cassie?
Yeah, I felt the same. It was on, I've never had to get a personal letters of recommendation, but my best friend and my sister wrote one, and it's actually really fun to read them. I loved it. I felt like I was getting a really nice birthday card. But that what part was, I mean, probably not as fun for them, but the interview, I agree, it was just long. I think it was an hour and a half. And it was a lot more personal, more about like what gets you up in the morning versus like YPA. It was not really medical related, but they made you feel very comfortable. So it was pretty easy. And I agree. I didn't hear for months. I think we found out on the same day again too, because I remember I was texting you in the morning. Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Um,
And again, I'm like,
yeah.
oh God, if one of you gets this, the other doesn't. This is a lot of pressure on me. I hope you guys know, by the way.
Yeah. You
sure,
brought
yeah.
us together. Yeah.
You guys have not dealt with stress like this. I'm just like, oh God, if they
Just
don't both
watching
get
from the
it.
sideline.
Yeah. Well,
No.
now I guess it'll be like who gets the first job out of PA school. That's the next step, huh?
We'll get hired on the same day at the same place. It's the
That would
only
be
Probably.
option.
crazy.
Uh, okay, so this is the part that a lot of people watch for is what tips do you have for anyone else who's thinking about applying to a PA school?
Um, I guess, well, one, trust James. James told me I'd be fine. I had no faith. But also a lot of my friends, almost all my friends now have gotten accepted to PA school this year, and they all have very different stats, like very different. I have friends who have like 3.0 GPAs. I have friends that have like 3.8s. Um, so I guess the process can be really intimidating, but it shouldn't deter you because I know that we're all very different and they all got in. So it's more about if you're willing to take a couple tries because it did take some of them a couple tries, but
Mhm.
still got in to great schools.
What about you, Kristen? What would you recommend
I
or
think
advise?
I think piggybacking off of that, like you have to realize it's kind of your own journey. I remember when I first started, you start comparing yourself to everybody else and what they have, and you have to just realize like you yourself are unique. There are
Mhm.
different like parts of you that will stand out. Yes, it's very intimidating because you will read like online that certain stats get in, but like Cassie said, everyone really has their own stats, and even you may be weak in one area but strong in the other area. But definitely, I think one thing is apply as early as you can. I think part of the reason why we were both accepted in Chapman is because we were part of the first interview, like day. And I think that's extremely important. So get your application in as early as you can. And yeah, trust James because we both didn't. And he knew right away that we would get in. That would have eliminated a lot of stress for us. But um I think you also have to trust yourself and realize like you do have your own strengths. So
Well, so school starts in 4 weeks or 3 weeks?
yeah,
Yep.
January 3rd.
Yep.
Oh, that's all right. You guys are ready. I mean, I'm sure just like last year students, this time next year, you guys will be like, oh my God, I can't. wait to start clinicals.
Yeah.
I talked to I have a lot of students that I stay in touch with, and the ones from last year who've been in their didactic this year, they're just barely hanging in. Actually, one of them, she's gone MIA for a little bit, so I hope she's okay. Last time I saw her, she looked, well, let's just say that
Stressed.
huh?
Stressed.
Yeah, let's just say that she doesn't really care what she looks like anymore.
That'll be us.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm excited.
Me too.
The anticipation is kind of killing me.
I know. The waiting game.
Okay, well, I want to thank both of you again for doing this. This is first time I've ever interviewed two students who both got accepted same time, same school, and I wish you both the best of luck. It was a lot of fun working with the both of you. I know you're both going to be great PAs and pretty awesome careers ahead of both of you. So congratulations on your acceptance and congrats on the scholarships. You both deserve them.
Yes,
Thank you.
You've helped us so much.
Yeah, couldn't have done it without you,
Credit
James.
too.
Okay. Thanks again.